Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your award-winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we are back for the big match preview against Qarabag to come in the Europa League. I did say Europa League, not Europa Conference League there. Sorry, guys. I'm still trying to remember what European competition we're in if I get the words out here. It's been so long since we've touched Europe. We've seen Europe. You have to forgive me. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening for the very first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on X. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook, too. We're, joined by returning guests, debutants. It's all kicking off here. It's all kicking off. Back on the show, Voice of Spurs. We want him to be the voice, of course, for what's going to be hopefully a positive European campaign to come. James Black is back. James, how are you, bud?
Yeah, good. Really good. That was finally a decent, really good performance, wasn't it? And clinical performance against Brentford. So, yeah, I'm buoyed for it. Ready for Thursday. Hopefully it carries on, man. But really, really good.
Amazing, mate. Lovely to have you back here. I'm already getting picked up on my pronunciation of Qarabag. I'm so sorry, guys. That it's been a long time since number one, we're back in Europe, and number two, since we played Qarabag. So forgive me. By the post-match show, hopefully I'll get it right. I'm not saying their name too often, because I don't need to say it too often because Spurs have only won the game. But listen, that's another story. That's another game. That's another show to come. Back on the show. Always loved, always adored. Ashmatic is in the house, bringing the vibes. Ash, thank you so much for your time, bud. How are you?
Yes, my people. Thanks for having me back on, Ricky. Big up Sonny Talk Spurs, James Black, the comments inside. Hopefully we're going to get down into nitty-gritty and we're going to break down what's to come on the show, man. Big up.
Amen, mate. Love to have you back here. Always a pleasure. The best double act you'll see, Ash and Marlon, literally at the moment, flying the flag for the Spurs Kings. Also, look, making his debut on the show. We've seen him around the Spurs media scene, if that's what you call it these days. The YouTube community it is. Sonny Talk Spurs, he's making his debut. Sonny, thanks so much for coming on. It's really weird, actually, I've got to say to a guest, hello, Sonny. It's really weird, so I'm going to have to get used to that because I'm not used to saying Sonny on the show to a guest. So, Sonny, how are you, my man? Lovely to have you back. Lovely to have you on Last Word on Spurs, Cheyenne.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Glad to be making my debut. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I mean, the last couple of podcasts, people will be like, oh yeah, Sonny hasn't really been in good form. And I'm like, are you talking about me or are you talking about young Min? Like, please, can you specify? Because I'll get upset. But no, really glad to be here with the guys as well.
Bless you, mate. Lovely to have you here. Thanks so much for making your debut. And in terms of what we're covering during this show, look, for those that right now are on the rerun, watching it back on the morning commute, yes, of course, Spurs have released the Fans Forum out to the world. It is out there now for viewing coverage on their YouTube channel. We'll be dipping in and dipping out of really the main key takeaways from that Fans Forum, which Spurs did hold, of course, on the Monday evening. Well, of course, looking ahead to Spurs' upcoming game in Europe. Yes, Spurs back in Europe, of course, to come. And maybe what Ange's team selection will look like ahead of what we've got to say is an absolutely mega period of games to come, fixtures to come. I see it on so many shows. If I look so scared, it's because of the amount of shows we've got to come on Last Word on Spurs in terms of juggling, going to the game, coming back to the game, going to see James. It's all a busy, busy time at the moment. And obviously going to check what Sonny's doing, what Ash is bringing to the table on the YouTube scene. Busy times to be Spurs fans right now. And listen, we can't thank you enough as always for joining us. We have had some really good news this week from, listen, I've got to say, you wonderful, amazing people that make things like this happen. Last Word on Spurs is once again a finalist in the Football Content Awards, this time for 2024. Ironically and amazing, we've been nominated for 3 awards. Don't ask me how that happens. You know, we'd be happy for 1, I've got to be honest with you. It's at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, so we could create some history here. You amazing, beautiful, lovely people. Can we actually lift the trophy in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? Yes, it can happen. Will it happen? It's down to you, beautiful, amazing people. You can vote for us right now by hitting that QR code for our YouTube audience. So for those that are listening back on the rerun and audio, you can vote for us via the description in our audio link. And you can vote for us on X by voting. I am voting in the FCAs for Last Word on Spurs as best podcast in the Premier League. And I've got to say, guys, we can't thank you enough for your support. Look, it's not just, as you know, myself. It's a wonderful team that managed to create this on a week-to-week. It felt day-to-day at one point channel. And like I say, it's amazing people like this that give up so much of their spare time that get us even in a position to be nominated for that. So we can't thank you enough. We love you so much out there. And again, thank you so much for all your incredible support. Right, we're going to get into the Fans Forum. I think it's fair to say that, as always with these Knights, if you want to call them such as knights, they always throw up a number of different feelings, different topics, I'm going to be honest with you. And for those that aren't really aware of what the Fans Forum is about, look, it's hosted now for the second consecutive year. It provides supporters with a unique opportunity to engage directly with key figureheads from both the men and the women's team. The panel featured Chairman Daniel Levy, newly appointed Technical Director Johan Langer, men's first team manager Ange Postecoglou, men's team captain Heung-min Son, women's team manager Robert Villaham, and women's captain Bethany England. Now, the event is renowned and hosted by the brilliant Nahal Athanaika, who've got a really good relationship with ourselves over here. And this invites fans to also submit questions ahead of the forum and also take part in a live Q&A. Look, we're going to be honest with you, as you guys are aware. Look, they are pre-vetted questions. So if we're going to be honest, they all pretty much knew what was going to be coming their way ahead of the event. But I think the main takeaways from a lot of these comments that have come up, and I'll start with you, Ash, if I don't mind, is Daniel Levy was asked about his top 3 achievements as chairman of Tottenham Hotspur, in which he replied, reaching the Champions League final, opening the new stadium, and having world-class players like Berbatov, Keane, and Bale at the club. Obviously, the one thing that many Spurs fans feel is a glaring miss there is the fact that there's no mention of the one trophy Spurs have won and his tenureship there, in which is nearly spanning 2 decades. So, Ash, your thoughts on Daniel Levy's opening line there about his top 3 achievements? Do you understand it? Is it right? Can you get it?
Yeah, I mean, do I understand it? No. Am I surprised? Not really. The way you set it up. It is a kind of controlled fan forum event. So for me, these answers that he's given would have been thought about before he said. So the fact that he's come out and he said the Champions League final, some people might think of that as a massive achievement, but we didn't actually win anything. So it's a bit crazy when the biggest achievement for him is not a League Cup final, winning a League Cup, which I remember when Woodgate headed that in against Chelsea. That was an amazing moment for me as a fan. I don't know how he's not looked at that as an achievement, but he's looked at getting to a final that we didn't win as an achievement. And then maybe I'm thinking, is it because of how much money he made off the back of it? This is me being a cynic. Like 120, 150 million pounds he probably made just to get to that final, and how much, publicity he made off the back of that. He's thinking, we need to be in that top 4 again. We need to be getting to that competition because I can sell all of my corporate seats out. I can sell all of that. And that just screams to me like that suits the narrative, if that makes sense. And I hate to go down that, but I wasn't the one that said it. He's the one that said it. Then you start thinking about players, and you think about, okay, yeah, maybe, the great players, that makes sense, But then you think about the players as an achievement. Well, maybe because he sold Kane for 100 million, he sold Bale for 100 million. So it's like, oh, bro, you're just falling into the narrative again, Daniel.
Yeah.
Money making. Do you know what I'm saying? That's me being cynical again. But it's because he's got that around him, and I've experienced it in myself, thinking, oh, geez, man, like, why is it always like great businessmen? Because that's what we want to build them up. Great businessman. And that leads me on to the stadium, because the stadium is another cash cow, another money maker. And that's where he makes his bread and butter, building the stadium, buying the land underneath the stadium, gentrifying around Tottenham, because he wants to open up the mall. He wants to open up places. He even wants to spend that hotel. There's a hotel where they want to spend, I don't know, 200 to 300 million on a hotel. And you're like, where's the money in the budget for the players, the transfers that we're going to buy? I don't know. Like, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm talking out of turn. I don't know. But it's just too many, like, bro, you had time to think about this, Danny, you had time to think about it.
That's what worried me, Ash. I mean, these were pre-vetted questions. This is what worries me. He everything on his feet.
If that exactly, if he came out to you like just randomly and he just quickly like, oh, on my days, like caught me off guard, I can understand it and I can maybe try to back it. But bro, it doesn't feel right. It smells kind of like, Levy. You know what I'm saying? I hate to say it, bro. And I don't want to go down this route, but I started it. So you can blame me. If it's a spade, it's a spade. But that's me. I don't know. The other panelists, they might have completely different views to me, and I'm happy to be wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? But that's just me. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Sonny, bringing you in. Daniel Levy obviously asking the question around handling criticism. He said that he ignores most criticism and uses it as a motivation, whilst Ange actually admitted that validation of criticism exists, but emphasised that decisions are based on complete information available to him. But just on the Daniel Levy point about ignoring criticism, what I would say is that for me, I totally understand ignoring the abusive angle of it, because we see that pretty much day in, day out on social media, on all platforms, I'm going to be honest with you. But the worrying thing for me is the fact of ignoring criticism when it's constructive criticism. It's criticism to actually look at an angle where things could be better if it's taken on board and it's put into place. And the irony is that when you look at maybe in the past where he has been criticised, only recently over the handling of David Pleat, for example, around the book situation. Now, from what I understand with the trust, that decision has now been reversed and they are allowing David Pleat to be selling the book in his shop. When you go back to the situation around furloughing, we're going to come on to the senior concessions as well. Is it quite worrying, Sonny, that the chairman of the football club says he ignores most criticism?
I mean, this is the guy who, he has made many mistakes in the years gone by. He furloughed the staff and U-turned that as well. So, I looked at those comments last night and I feel like whatever Daniel Levy would have said, he would have got criticism. Like, it is what it is. We know certain members of the fan base are not fans of him, like 100% not fans of him. I'm on the fence because I believe he's good at bringing in money, but he's not good at spending it and backing managers. He never backed Pochettino when he should have. And now he is starting to back Postecoglou slightly, but still not enough to really, close the gap. He sacked Jose Mourinho on the week ahead of a final. Those three things he named as the three big achievements. I mean, they would make my top three over the last couple of years. But I feel like, if he had said, for example, the League Cup, someone on Twitter would have quoted it and gone, that was 20 years ago. That was, one trophy. It would have just, whatever he said is just going to get slated, which is understandable. But yeah, with the criticism thing, it is a bit like, I think because one of the lines he said was, I use it to get success. But you haven't had success.
Make me more successful. Make me more successful.
Yeah, in what regard? Like his business portfolio is more successful. As Ash was saying, he's gentrified the whole of North London and it now looks spick and span. But yeah, I think it's a strange one with Levy because that's the problem with him. Every positive you can think of two negatives. The way he sort of. I guess with these, he started doing these fan forums. So at first people were like, oh, he's trying to, because he went quiet for a little while as well. We didn't hear from him for a little while, instead of when he did that statement and went COYS Daniel or whatever it was. And he started to do this.
After sacking Stellini.
Yeah, he sort of is trying to bridge a gap. He's taken a step back because obviously he's brought in Johan Lang, Scott Munn as well. I'm surprised Scott Munn isn't at one of these events as well, considering his role at the club. So yeah, I this is not me in any way backing Daniel Levy and any in that regard at all. I just know being a Tottenham fan for 28 years or so. I just know he could have said anything and it just would have been ripped to shreds, because even the stuff Ange Postecoglou said was getting sort of criticised, like his comments about the Tottenham way. I tell you, Sonny,
I haven't even started yet.
Yeah, I don't even know. When Ange says the Tottenham way, I don't think us Tottenham fans even know what the Tottenham way is anymore. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I just think maybe it makes sense just not having these fan forums, because it just gives more fuel for us Spurs fans to have a go.
The problem is, I feel like when I have these forums, I end up having more questions than I do answers. That's what worries me. We're going to go into it. We're going to go into these things and get the clarification we want. I come away and think there's another 15 questions I need answered. Well, meant to be answered during the sessions, but
that's all we've got time for. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, that's it. We've done that. That's it. We're finished. We'll see you for Qarabag on Thursday. I've got to ask you, James. Look, I think the key matter that I think he wanted to get across, Daniel, was the fact that the club are in the market for a minority investor. As they look to bolster the spending power, the need for larger capital. He said they've got a lot of exciting projects on the horizon, and he said also they've announced that with the late results, the club needs that bigger capital base in terms of what they want to achieve in due course. Now, it's interesting when you look at the latest revenue for Spurs, it went up by 24% to 549.6 million from the previous year of 444 million. Now, we said last year we broke that 500 million mark, which puts us in the league of the 8th largest club in the world by revenue, but we're still a long, long way off from our competitors, and that's the gap we need to close in order to give more resources to our football clubs, and that is what we're working on. Now, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I mean, on that point, James, do you feel like the club are in that position where now, when you look at the millions and millions that Man City are spending, and dare I say now, you've got Arsenal going out there every summer and splashing 100 million on a player. Do you think that is what Tottenham genuinely need to have some actual fundamental investment that comes in and allows the club to move forward in a way in which they can really, I want to say, push on and challenge the top? Because I feel definitely the narrative and the feeling around the summer transfer window, and again, guys, it's not to go back into this heavily. I think all of us felt the club can and maybe should have done more in it. And it's on that basis where, again, you look at maybe where we're at in terms of the landscape now, and despite being the 8th richest club, maybe there is a need to bring in that investment to be able to allow Spurs to flex their muscles in the market and be able to buy the players that I think all of us want to see at the club and really give us a feeling that we are genuinely competing for the big honours. Is that fair, James?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I mean, we've been spending quite a bit, haven't we, recently? But it's like how we're spending it. I think quite a lot of the fans wanted to see a player like Eze, for example, and it wasn't even touched on. We've been spending, like I say, we've been spending quite a bit of it. But there's a big difference between what we spend, which I guess if you look at it, it's very close to the top 2 or 3, how much we've been spending recently. But it's the wage bill as well, and players coming for a certain wage that they'll be used to or be offered a hell of a lot more at the top clubs. And I think it's bridging the gap there with investment might be what he's talking about more, because although we've been spending it, have we been spending it on the right players? Well, that's a few of these players we'll find out maybe, but we've had a couple of big mistakes, haven't we, in terms of the big outlays of the top players or top spending we've been doing. But it's the difference in the wage bill for me. If you look at that, that's quite huge. And I think attracting the top names, attracting winners, to have that balance of the youth coming through as the same way and having winners, they want the top wages because they can get the top wages anywhere else. And I think that's the gap. And hopefully, if he's talking through investment, that's where we need to bridge the gap with the top clubs, rather than the outlay of the millions of pounds for the signature.
Yeah, that's fair. One thing Daniel Levy did actually say in that presser, or you want to call it event, of course, the fan forum, is that the club will be putting more resources into the club's academy. Seeing players such as Harry Kane come through the system in the past has become such a pivotal figure in the first team. I think us Spurs supporters want to see more of those players coming through. Spurs have got the likes of the teenagers of Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, of course. They've got Wilson Odebear that they signed in the summer. They've got Min-hyuk that is joining up in January. They've got, of course, Luka Vuskovic out on loan at the moment. And when speaking about Tottenham's young players policy, Levy made it clear that they do not tell Ange Postecoglou to only sign young players. Daniel emphasised our view is we want to play a certain way. I don't think we're dictating to Ange that he can only sign a young player. He will sign who he feels is the best for him and best for the team. Obviously, we feel that bringing young players through the academy is what Spurs fans want to see. That's why we're going to put more emphasis into resources into the academy, because we love seeing a player come all the way through and he becomes one of our own. As a result, we'll end up probably being a younger team than otherwise we would be. Now, interestingly, on the progress of Spurs under Ange Postecoglou and under Robert Villahan for the women, Daniel Levy said, "I'm incredibly proud of both our teams and our managers. I believe we're on the right track. We're going to have some ups and downs, but I think we're in a really, really good place." Now, again, there's been several things highlighted from that fans forum. Daniel Levy has expressed the case around the hosting of more WSL matches, but again, expressed the need that there needs to be more strong attendances before committing to such further matches in due course. There was something around, again, the season ticket concession withdrawal. Daniel Levy defended the controversial decision to pause concession season ticket due to financial concerns, citing the need to secure long-term matchday revenue. He indicated that the club are working with the FAB, that is the Fan Advisory Board, to find a solution, ensuring space for all fans, included younger supporters. Now, there was also comments in that fans forum from Spurs technical director Johan Langer, who said that he explained his responsibilities extend beyond the transfer window, focusing on building a long-term technical strategy. Upon joining, he held numerous discussions about reducing the average age of the squad, whilst also ensuring the club's style of play was embedded. He also insisted that there's a balance between data an instinct on a player and emphasise the importance of combining the two in terms of data analysis with live scouting, character assessment, work ethic evaluation, and aiming to build a sustainable squad for the future. It was touched upon around the signing of Dominic Solanke, in which Ange said, when asked about Solanke, he praised his work ethic, his resilience after difficult stints at two major clubs, emphasising that Solanke's positive attitude and determination was a key fundamental and one of the reasons why he wanted to bring him to the football club. And I think we've seen that really in terms of Ange's profile of signings at Spurs, that when you look at the signs of Vicario, Mickey van der Ven, you go through the signings that he's made, all these players have had a journey. They've gone through a period of maybe some destabilisation in their career, and they've always found themselves back on track, and which has earned them that move. So, look, again, he seems to sign a certain profile of player. And in terms of the progress and the vision, describe the current phase as laying the groundwork for long-term success, whilst also acknowledging there is still work to be done, but he does remain confident in the direction the club is heading. He was also asked about prioritisation around cup competitions. He stressed that he does not prioritise one cup over another, with a desire to win every game. He highlighted the importance of squad rotation, enabling him to bring key players off when needed. But I think one of the key things that has been picked up on, Ash, coming around to you, I promise you I'm not picking you on you, mate, for difficult questions or difficult answers. He was asked around pragmatism in matches, and a fan question to Ange Postecoglou was asked, Ange, is it time to show more pragmatism in games? Teams that win trophies have solid defences as well as attacks. Ange's response was, you're spot on, mate, but it won't be us. As much as we want success, there's a Spurs way, and I won't deviate away from that. Ash, what do you make of those comments?
I'm not gonna lie. When I first heard it, it floored me. I can't lie. My head was hot. My head was gone. I said, please just stop talking. I just want to talk about football. Just talk about something positive about the Brentford game. I don't know. Because when he said, because like the critique of him has been the defending. And I think personally, I think the attacks just need to be a bit more ruthless when we do have that ball in the final third. I think the decision making as well sometimes lets us down, and that's why on the metrics we have so much possession, but when it comes to like big chances, they're not as many as maybe the team we lost against, like your Newcastle's or Arsenal or whatever, blah blah blah. But coming back to that statement, it's that whole sometimes, like, I remember under Pochettino, we played really aggressively. We played front-footed football, but there was times, especially like when we got into cup competitions or we needed to get a result. I remember like Kane or Denny Ali going to a corner flag, and there was some type of pragmatism where we kind of like tried to see games out and we tried to manage games, and it didn't necessarily compromise the philosophy of Pochettino at the time. And I just think when we played Chelsea, and he gets a lot of props for this from neutrals, from fans alike, because the ideology behind it is we are who we are, mate. We don't change. And we played that ultra high line. It was heroic. It was like 300 when we like, it doesn't matter what we do. We're going to keep it up. We're going to stick together. And then we end up getting beat 4-1 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But then you look at games against Newcastle and it's like a theme, this high line, and we're not dropping and we're not adapting. And it's like, we know that when you win leagues, it's built on strong defenses. That's how you win leagues. And for him to come out and it feels like he's completely ignored that kind of aspect of it, defending. Yes, we can be an attacking team. Yes, we can be front-footed, but you have to acknowledge the defensive side as well. And that statement for me, when I heard it, I was like, oh my days, he's just not, he could have worded it a lot differently, because I know what he meant, because I had to read it over a couple of times and I had to sleep on it, wake up and think, Ash, are you overreacting? You being too reactionary? Calm down, breathe. Do you know what I mean? And all he's saying is what he said from the start. We are who we are, mate. So we are. But I think it's the Spurs way, because over recent history, we're the only club. We're the only club that has a nickname called Spursy, which is negative, which is like connotations of a loser. So when you say the Spurs way, if you're older generation, you might think cups, winning cups, trophies, blah, blah, blah. But we haven't won a cup in 16 years, and that was a League Cup, the lowest cup of all cups. Do you know what I'm saying? Before that was FA Cup back in '91. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so we used to be that big. So the heritage is there, but you have to go a little bit further back. But like, what is the Spurs way? Now I know, like, if you've done your history on Spurs, the Spurs way is more, you know, where like we actually had our kit all white, like Real Madrid, because that's what we were trying to
push and run.
Push and run, that kind of culture where attacking play, win with style. And you can do both. You can win trophies with style, but we've kind of lost that. And when he says the Spurs way, it just didn't sit well with me. I'm not gonna lie. That's as well. But I just think generally he could have just worded it a lot better, in my opinion. Now a lot of people disagree with what I'm saying, but that's how I felt when I heard it. I was like, my brother, no, why did you say that? That's not the way to say it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure people will disagree with me, and but that's just how I initially felt. I'll be real. That's how I felt. I was like,
it's funny. I mean, actually, as you're saying that, I mean, the comments flying through it. There's some that think it's a great answer, some think it's a poor answer. I mean, James, just coming to you. What do you think about that answer? We'll have to bring James off mute. Oh, that's a difficult question, bud. We don't want to force you into it.
I'm very similar, to be honest. Yeah, at first it's like, oh God, do not be saying stuff like that. He keeps repeating himself with things like that. But yeah, I think he doesn't mean the same as the history of that word, the Spursy. I don't think he means it in that manner. I think that take the Chelsea game, for example. Do you remember that Dyer chance when or did he score? It was offside or something like that.
You're right, Dyer. I mean, that point.
Playing that way, isn't it? So it very nearly did pay off against 10 men against Chelsea, which we would have just, in a flick of an eye, would have said was heroic. So, and I look at things like the XG conceded, and is it the WhoScored.com? I think I'll get it off where. It's only 3 teams that have conceded more XG than us. So although they are clear-cut chances, we're not conceding a lot of chances. No. It's just the chances that we are conceding are pretty barbaric. So there is certain elements of it, like getting all this possession. Okay, Brentford was different. Brentford is probably why I'm a bit more buoyed at this a minute. You asked me last week, I'd have been a bit more on the back foot on this whole thing. But seeing how we played against Brentford, seeing the possession we've got, seeing how we played against Leicester in the first half, quite a lot against Newcastle, and even in the Woolwich game, like we were outplaying them at times, which we weren't doing last season. There's been quite a lot of improvements, and the XG conceded is not horrific. There's only 3 teams, like I say, worse than us. There's elements there, and quite a lot of elements that is all pointing towards the right way. But it's just that Tottenham fans, we just want, like Ash has touched upon there, we want trophies, and to get trophies, do you neglect defence that much? And I've never seen it done, to be honest with you. So that's the concern, and that's the worry. So I'm the same as what Ash is saying in that. But you're looking at the other stuff, and there's so much good. But yeah, do the corner flag, do the time wasting. Not as much as Woolwich, who, by the way, are top of the league for time wasting. I just saw today. So not as much as that, but like do a bit of dark arts. Do you know what I mean? Battle of the Bricks was the first time I really saw Tottenham doing it.
100%.
Love bits of it. Do you know what I mean? And even telling the managers to stay humble now and again might be quite good from us as well, from some of our players. That'd be good. But yeah, the answer did scare me as much as probably it scared Ash. But there's elements of that his play that I'm fully behind, but don't neglect it too much.
Yeah, I also think you make a big point there, James. It's also the way you interpret an answer like that. I think that's really key because everybody's got their different feeling and meaning as to what an answer to that question is. I mean, Sonny, when you saw that for the first time, that answer, what did you take away from it? Because he followed up as well in that Fans Forum by saying he expressed his determination to bring success to Spurs, highlighting that while the club may seem like a easy target for criticism, it is large enough to remain focused on its goals. I mean, are we just not used to a manager that is very bullish in his approach? Because we have had the previous 2 managers here in terms of Conte and Mourinho. Sorry, I'm skipping over Nuno as well. I do apologise. Kind of really playing us down, almost doing us a favour by being here. Whereas maybe we're just not used to a manager coming in and actually believing he can win something here. And also being bullish in his approach that we don't have to have focus on defence. We can just simply outscore teams. But when I say that, even I'm thinking, this sounds nuts.
Yeah, I feel like Ange's quotes and words have been properly under the microscope for the last few weeks, especially like his comments on winning in his second season. You know, he always wins trophies. It's a strange one because I do get what he means, and I do think sometimes it is taken a little bit out of context. Like even the whole like, I always win, mate. I always win in my second season. It is what we are. Like I feel like he's saying it a bit tongue in cheek, but some people look at it a little bit literally. But I guess and I said this on another podcast recently, I guess what's quite good about Ange and what he says is I compare like when we finished in the top four under Conte, and Conte was like, I am not used to celebrating top four as success. I don't, I'm used to winning trophies. Whereas I feel like Ange does a lot of we need to, I need to change we need to change the mentality sort of thing at this club. He wants everyone sort of pulling in the same direction. And I think the players are doing that. Whereas I feel like Conte, Mourinho just sort of divided everyone. So I just feel like, especially with these certain comments, they are a bit at face value. Sometimes the stuff he says is a bit like, oh, hang on a minute, what do you mean here? But when you like take a bit of time to sit and reflect and sort of analyze what he has said, I think he means it in like a sincere way. Like he even like this, there's been a lot of people recently I've seen like the media and certain YouTubers of rival teams calling Ange out, saying he's rude, saying he's, just a bit arsey, arrogant. And I'm just a bit like...
Not that I think he is, I'm just giving you what they've been saying.
But I just feel like some people are looking a bit too far into it. And he's just, you watch his press conferences and he is a bit more jovial. I feel like he is a bit more like, whereas I feel like if you watched the Mourinho or Conte one, it was... Yeah. I felt like it was more about them. It was more about like, talking in riddles and stuff like that. Whereas I think Ange is a bit sort of bullish, but in a more of a positive way, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, talking about the Spurs way, I mean, it's a bit confusing at the moment because we've gone from like really defensive football that was boring to watch, but not really defensive either. And then now we just play a bit gun-ho. And there's the thing about this season, it's like you look at all the games we've played and we have played a lot better. We're sort of playing a different sort of system because Kulusevski's dropping, deeper as an 8. And it's all well and good, when we're putting our chances away. But as we've seen, if we're not going to outscore a team and we like die off as the game goes on, we are going to struggle. And the thing is as well with this whole like the debate about have Tottenham been found out, do we have a plan B? I still think Ange doesn't have his plan A, and that's not me criticising him. I think he just doesn't think that he has got the team playing how he wants yet. It's still like not the finished article, and you can sort of see in like in these, as I say, in these games where we're not putting away our chances, but we're creating a lot of high quality chances. Yep. And it's like, I think Ange wants the team to take more risks further in the final third. There's still that sort of patterns of play where Son or Johnson get it on the wing and then they pass it back, and he wants them to proper go for the fullback or the defender. And again, I still think, we talk about, is the defense an issue? Maybe it could also be the midfield. I think Bentancur's looks a lot better recently in the 6. And then I guess the other big thing about the big quote that I've just remembered about what Aaron just said is his stuff about set pieces. He sort of said, set pieces won't win us the league and won't take us to the next level. And everyone, when they heard that, was like, but look at Arsenal. Like, they've got a set piece expert. They're best at it. They've scored 2 corners in the last 2 weeks, for example. But I think he means it in the stage of, I'm not all my eggs are in the set piece basket. I'm sorting out other issues, and we will get to there's loads of little fires that you sort of putting out at the same time.
We'll come to that in season 10.
Yeah, I feel like it's
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll come to it.
I feel like Ange Postecoglou in his office just has like a Rome wasn't built in a day mural on the wall, and every time someone says, "Are we going to sort this out?" he just points it and goes,
"We're currently working on the leak in the bathroom, but don't worry about what's going on downstairs in the kitchen. Yeah. Don't worry about the kitchen completely flooded. We're just
Tom Hanks' money pit."
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I think what I would say is I think the Brentford performance, what I want to see in the Brentford performance for me, what I was really happy with that the players are still buying in. I think that the thing was, I think maybe we were feeding up into the Brentford game. There's a little bit of unease. I think it's fair to say that, there was a little bit of pressure on that presser beforehand. And do you know what, Sonny, when you said about the pressers, I think, interestingly, he's very spiky in terms of the post-match if it goes wrong. He's great in the pre-match. He's fantastic in the pre-match. He's enthusiastic. He's he's charming. Haters are clipping him up where he's got a chance to be clipped up by haters and, of course, Sky and stuff. I mean, I just feel like I say that Brentford win was so important because we saw a real dominant Spurs display. We saw players buying in. And I think for some that maybe have been doubted, it was, Spurs can do that over the course of a game. I think arguably you say in a weird way now, going behind was probably the best thing. We saw character. We saw determination. The key is going to be, as I've said, I now want to see this actually deployed against the likes of Man United, the likes of the bigger games coming up. It's all very well, no disrespect, beating the Brentfords of this world, beating, I say, these lower placed teams. I need to go and see this away at the way of the likes of Newcastle, the Chelseas, the Arsenal, the Cities. You're not going to win all these games. You're not going to win them all. But what you want to see is performances that make you feel we are on a higher trajectory and we're moving up. And look, as I said, you've got no divine right to win. All you want to feel is the team are ultimately performing and they're playing to a capability of what the manager is asking to do. Just to finish off, before we look ahead to Qarabag to come, Ange did explain that with regards to the loan policy of players, that if the players are not likely to receive substantial game time, it is better for them to go out on loan. Look, we've seen a number of loan players for Spurs, of course, feature heavily so far in this part of the season. So that makes sense in itself. Min-hyuk Son was asked about fixture congestion, in which he expressed the relentless nature of that, feeling as though players are treated like robots, and also echoed those concerns and warned that players are approaching breaking point due to the physical and mental exhaustion. Daniel Levy noted that the issue is especially challenging for the English clubs, given the additional domestic competitions, and has called on FIFA to address it. Son was also asked about the aspect around Spurs and their lack of clinical finishing. Sonny emphasised the need for the entire squad to improve their finishing in the final third, making it a priority in training sessions. He was also asked about his own future. And Sonny, in terms of what that looks like for him and when he'll stay at Spurs long-term, said, look, he wants to be remembered as a Spurs club legend with a desire to bring happiness to the fans. And I think we all echo those thoughts. There was also big support for Brennan Johnson, who, of course, has suffered a lot of abuse over the course of the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Again, I said this on the previous shows. Can't understand it. Don't get it. There's one thing thinking a player's not good enough. There's another thing going on to personally abuse a player, which I just don't understand. Like, I get it. He's a young player. He's 23 years old. I understand that. Some don't feel he's good enough for the football club. I think, look, to not go too overboard, we saw last season he achieved 15 GAs. I think what we want to see this season around is not only an improvement on that, but again, I think what people are holding him to account on is, can he go and do it against the bigger clubs, the likes of the Cities, the Liverpools, the United, the Chelseas, the Arsenal? So, look, we wish Brennan all the best. I've got to say, I thought that was really one of the saddest moments, actually, from the Brentford game, was that, again, we saw it at commentary, it feels really uncomfortable to celebrate with our fans, which is a real shame because, James, mate, come around to you. Look, you're playing with Tottenham fans every other week at the home game. And I think you'll agree with me, James, when I say the proportion of fans that are abusing him, I don't think it's those that are in the stadium. It's those that are on social media, faceless accounts that don't want to show their name. I'm sure you're saying, mate, with the love you get in that stadium, we want him to feel that love because it's incredible, right? Which you can, I'm sure, touch upon and relate to.
Yeah, I think, it's got to be right. I mean, that they started off, didn't they? One Brennan Johnson charm, which is absolutely amazing to see. But yeah, I'm with you. That the Coventry one where Sonny was bleeding him over to the fans. Now, the only bit on that, I mean, I'm completely on Brennan Johnson's side, is that the away fans are I'm not saying they're more higher than the home fans, but they're travelling across all the way there. I don't think they're the sort of people that are doing this. I don't think the away fans. I don't think the home fans are either. But these fans are not the ones. I think you're right what you're saying. It's more the people sat behind the keyboards. I'd imagine to have that kind of thing about you, to go onto people's Instagram and send personal messages. I don't think you're the sort of person who's going to these games really as well, or especially not the sort of person who's going to these games and saying you're doing it, because people would probably call you out for it, because the majority of our fans would back that player. And it was horrible to see his reaction, but equally fantastic to see the stadium get behind him. One with that chant, and I know that's going to pick him up a little bit. I know he did the silence thing, didn't he? But hopefully we're coming out of that. But yeah. The other bit you said, Ricky, I do echo that, doing it in the big games. I think that I think players are human beings. So as much as we shouldn't be abusing them like that as well. They should be like criticised and seeing how they get through the criticism when they're not playing as well. So I think obviously some of the criticism, the fair criticism, is obviously fair towards him about some of his performances. But turning it on against the big teams, I'd like to see. Taking on his man a little bit more, I'd like to see. But he's been brilliant recently. Definitely not one for advocating any kind of abuse, and loving the fact of seeing his character of pulling through it. And I think in time that there'll be a unison with the fans and Brennan Johnson.
Amen. Look, we have to hope so. What we are going to do, we are going to fit in our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. We've got nearly over 3,500, 4,000 of you watching us live on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitch. Listen, thank you so much for all your incredible support as always. For Last Word on Spurs, we're joined by debutant Sonny Talk Spurs. I've got to be honest, it's still really weird me saying Sonny on this show so regularly. Sonny, thank you so much. We're joined by Ashmatic over at the Spurs Kings. Ash is building up. He's got a show after this. Make sure you're going to check that out. We'll give you all the details straight afterwards. And we're joined by, he's the voice of Spurs, James Black in the building. If I can just say, actually, James, bringing this into concept and play, you've got your own, before we talk about Spurs European tour, you've got your own little tour going on at the moment, James. You're touring. Well, you are touring. I mean, look, I'm looking at the dates here. It is a European tour. It's not a UK tour. Tell us more about it, James. We have to unmute him first. This is why it's so. This is why it's brilliant being. This is why it's great. That's why it's great being live. Great being live. Go for it, James.
Well, it's been crazy. We touched upon it a bit last season, and we went across to the White Hart Danes in Denmark, and it went so well, and it was so amazing that we just put the video up about it, and I started to get messages on it a little bit. And there's a guy called Chuck who knows a few of the people in America. He said, "Look, I'm going to put it out to a few people." We just started contacting, and I was amazed about how many people want us over there, and there's more coming. So we've got about 5 or 6 dates. So if any supporters clubs are interested or listening, we've got about 5 or 6 dates to finish the season, and we're going to it looks like we're going to add like maybe Toronto and Dubai, and we're talking to South Korea, Singapore to finish off the year, But these fans are so full on. They love Tottenham Hotspur, you know, and it's lovely to see that as well, you know. But yeah, it's something I'm very proud of, but equally can't believe it, to be honest. At the same time, I'm just a Spurs fan that's managed to somehow get the best job in the world, playing to the Spurs fans, and I'm very humbled by just how many people want to see that.
Bless you, mate. You're amazing. Like I say, get in touch with James. We'll drop his email in here as well. So, yeah, like I say, if you're interested in more, like I say, those support groups around the world that watch Last Word on Spurs, that interact with us, go and obviously get in touch with James if you're interested in getting that man in your venue, in your gig, wherever you're going to be. I'm just trying to make sure. I might end up somewhere in a really unique location. I think, James, we had a conversation in the summer. You was in the middle of nowhere at one point we were speaking.
Oh, yeah. Cuba, when I was in Cuba.
Cuba.
I couldn't get internet, could I, to do Last Word on Spurs?
Poor bloke had to pay to speak to me. No one does that these days. I tell you, pay to speak to me. Jesus Christ, well, that world's going. People probably pay not to speak to me the way this world's going. Right, we're going to move on to Spurs' quest in Europe to land a European trophy. Spurs are returning. They are in the Europa League this upcoming Thursday. We are back underneath those famous lily white lights with Spurs, of course, in action against Qarabag to open up their European campaign. And I think there is some excitement around the place, rightly so. Spurs back in Europe is always special. How do we feel about it in general? I mean, Sonny, I'll come to you. Look, it's been an interesting start to the season. 2 wins, 2 losses and a draw in there. The opening 5 games. I mean, we come into it with a bit of momentum after firing the 3 goals past Brentford in that 3-1 win. I mean, Ange would have been delighted to see, obviously, with Qarabag, that game being at home, avoiding that long-haul trek across Europe and into the Asian border of Azerbaijan. How excited are you for this European tour coming our way?
Yeah, I'm really excited because this competition means a lot to us Spurs fans. You know, we won it twice, and it's just a great competition, especially now with the whole change to the Europa League and all the European competitions, really, because I think the formatting is better. I like this league, like it's actually a league now, and the whole thing that I really like is that the Champions League teams who finished third or did finish third, because that's not the case anymore, don't drop in. So we've got an even bigger chance to win it. If we win it, we get a trophy, and we also get qualification into the Champions League for next year. I just think there's a real big incentive. There's some really good teams in there who I back us to give them all a really good game. Even the likes of Roma recently sat their manager as well, Daniel De Rossi. So I don't see why we can't go far in this competition. The only issue I have is, and we saw it obviously against Coventry, is when Spurs do rotate and we're not playing our strongest team, how do those, the youngsters, the B team, how do they gel as a starting 11? And we saw that they couldn't really. There was moments of madness from Forster, who's obviously not good enough. A lot of reliance on Ben Davis. Timo Werner's not really up to scratch. So I just feel like it's all there. But again, that Thursday, Sunday grind, we've not obviously got as many games. We've got more games than we did last season. So Ange's got to juggle that. But yeah, I think it's a good thing for. I'd like to see a lot more of like Mikey Moore and Bergvall and Archie Gray. This is where they can get their minutes to hopefully get into the first team eventually. But I'm optimistic in the Europa League. I feel like the Europa League, as I just opened with there, I feel like that is the one I'm excited about the most this season, more than the other two domestic cups, because it just means something to us Spurs fans. And I'm obviously not old enough to remember seeing that trophy, but I just know, like, from hearing about it from my family and my dad and all that it just is such a good competition, and it's just good to be back in Europe. And I think the fixtures have fallen quite nicely, like our home and away ones, like up to Scotland will be quite entertaining, against Roma as well. A few, Galatasaray away is the one that I think I'm a bit worried about, because I was worried about the atmosphere, but Victor Osimhen is going to be a bit of a, tricky customer. I feel like you have to start Mickey van der Ven against him to keep up with him. But yeah, optimistic, but Qarabag could be a banana slip and we all go home all sad on Thursday night.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, I can't even get their name right at the moment, so I've got till Thursday to get it right. And someone I haven't mentioned much between now and Thursday. Ash, coming over to you. I mean, let's be honest about it. It's not been the greatest time for Spurs in Europe. I mean, over the last few years, I have been here. I mean, it's been woeful, really, when you look back at the way we exited that last 16 defeats to AC Milan in 2022, 2023. I know many of us just want to blank that's ever happened and get it out of our memory and erase it. How confident are you, Ash, that we can have a really positive European journey this season? Because I think the one thing I would say is that none of those fixtures really daunt me. I do agree, and now I'm going to be an absolute hypocrite to that and say the Galatasaray one does. But apart from that, I think that's a competition where Spurs, I think, with the players we've got, with no disrespect, even rotational-wise, we should have enough at least to get through the group stage. Well, I say group stages, the league stages of the opening period, and really press on to the latter stages of this competition. Do you feel the same on that, Ash?
You know what it is? Oh, man. The Conference League. Oh, I just remember FC Mura. I remember Vitesse. I remember Rennes. And it's like, it's down to perception.
Who could forget Lask? Or Lask? Is it Lask?
It's down to perception. We went out there and we potentially played our weaker team, or some people call it the B team. Now, the transfer business we did, what we're trying to say is the youth that we're bringing in, they're meant to be showing their level, and they're meant to be pushing to get into that first team. So there's their chance to kind of do what they... But I saw that against Coventry, where Sonny's already touched on it. The midfield dynamic, it's a little bit different to our first team, because we play with two attacking eights, in my opinion, with Maddison and Kulusevski. Now, when you take both of them out, there seems to be an issue when you've got Pape Sarr, who I do like, and you've got Bentancur, who's more like the defensive midfielder out of the two of them. And then you've got Bergvall, who's meant to be the James Maddison. Now, you've taken away one of the attacking eights, in my opinion, because I look at the profile of Pape Sarr. He is box to box and he does get shots off. But in terms of like creativity, in terms of like crashing the box, in terms of, finding that pass like Kulu can do at times between the lines, I don't really see that same profile as a player from Pape Sarr. People can disagree, but I just think that's where the balance is slightly off, because we did dominate against Coventry and we did expect us to win against Coventry. So, I mean, the difference between the two games, I think we're going to be at home. So I do expect us to win because in front of your home fans, the energy is so different under the lights that the young players will get up for it. So that's when I expect to see us, create a little bit more and be a bit more dynamic and have a lot more shots. But at the same time, I can't not put respect on them, even though they're from Azerbaijan. They're top of their league. I know they got beat by they got knocked out the Champions League qualifier.
Yes, they did.
By Prague.
Dynamo, I think Dynamo
Zagreb. Dynamo Zagreb.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dynamo Zagreb.
Yeah.
I think it was 4 or 5. They got beat.
Anyway, don't worry, Ash. We're all learning here, bud. We're all learning again about these European. It's been a couple of years about it. We're all learning. We're all learning again.
It's off the top of the dome. It's the top of the dome. But like literally, I'm thinking, this team going forwards, I'm not going to write them off. Defensively, I think they'll be a poor team. We should have more than enough to beat them. But I'm not going to write off their players and say, their players can't do us any damage. And I was looking into them and I was like, they've got like 1 or 2. They've got like a player that plays in a 10. And I forget his name off the top of my head, but I looked at him real quick and I think his name's Benzia, not Benzema, Benzia. But yeah, he's not bad. He can finish. So it's those little things you're like, wow, we need to take them seriously. We need to take them to the swords and put them away. And as you guys were saying, we need to use that momentum to take into the Man United game. And then that's the real test when we're like, all right, cool. We've got 3 wins on the bounce. Can we take that form into United? And then if we do well against United at Old Trafford, can we take that into the next European game? And then can we have a campaign? Because if we get 2 wins in Europe, I think we can start to believe a little bit in that competition. And it is a good gateway into the Champions League if we do 100%. Win it. And it's a good way, not even against Champions League, just to win a cup, to get our first trophy.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's what we all want as Spurs fans, right? So I want us to take it really seriously. And that's my only worry is the dynamic. Well, it's not my only worry. I did see that the deficiencies in our centre-back pairing with Ben Davies and Jacuzzi, in terms of like on the balls over the top wasn't quite, it wasn't quite flavoring for me, in my opinion. So I would like to see those improvements as well on the ball when we're trying to pin teams in and put them under pressure. That's why I have my concerns.
That's fair. I mean, James, I don't know if this is a concern or a good or a bad thing. Spurs are listed as one of the favourites for the competition. And look, I don't know, is that a good or a bad thing, James, to be seen as a favourite? Does that help us? Is it better as an underdog? Because I mean, if you remember that Champions League season, we got the final. We was out about 4 times or 3 times in that run. I mean, it was mental, really.
I remember that. But
or even PSV with Harry in the last minute. I mean, yeah. I mean, we was out of it about 3 times and still got to a final.
Well, when you put the graphics up there and you see who's in it, we're going to be one of the favourites there. And that thing that somebody touched upon about nobody dropping in from the Champions League, that does make it better, and it does mean grab it by the scruff of the neck and go for it. Yeah, it's the one that excites me to be honest with you. I love those European nights. And I do think we've got a great chance of it. I mean, out of them teams you're looking at right now, Roma, Man United, Porto, Ajax, Rangers, Frankfurt, Lazio, Tottenham, Slavia Prague in the top. You'd still have us right up there, wouldn't you? Really? I mean, I guess we're going to see a little bit more from after Sunday being away to Man U, but we're already going to be playing one of the top ones in Roma. I think we've got a fantastic chance of this competition. I think what we'll see, although I don't really want to see, though I definitely don't want to see this, but we'll see quite maybe a bit too heavy rotation on tomorrow because of the Man United game on Sunday. But hopefully, what I want to see in these competitions now, especially after Coventry, is what a lot of these top teams do. It's like a gentle rotation. It's not like a huge wholesale change.
It's not 5, 6, 7, 8, is it? It's not 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
It takes all momentum out. And the dynamic of the midfield, like Ash pointed on there, it just completely changes. Players don't know where they are, and you can completely smell that. And if we can see it, then the opposition can certainly see it. So that's where I think we're getting found out. So if he uses this and changes 2 or 3 for resting them for Sunday, then I'm up for that. But I want to see us taking it seriously straight from the off. Get some good results under our belt. get into that top 8 early on, then we can start seeing the others, because it's not. I mean, none of them games scare me really either. Like there's not huge games, are they? And the way we've been playing against some top teams already, I think it's there for the taking. I guess all of us sitting here now, we would be absolutely shocked if we didn't finish in that top 8. I think. To be going straight into that. No, nobody feeling the same.
I agree with you. I'm a Spurs. Can't be honest, James. I'm a Spurs fan. Nothing surprising.
Don't worry, I've got exactly the same. Even when I'm walking out of my mouth, I've got exactly the same. Don't worry about that.
This is the club that got themselves disqualified from the bloody Conference League. So I think it's on that basis, anything can bloody happen. I have to wait.
Go on.
No, go on, please.
I'm just worried that when you've got a team like Qarabag, no disrespect for them, at home, and you're going to Old Trafford on Sunday, I'm worried about any changes tomorrow. That sort of dynamic setup. When it's not as big a team that you're facing and going to their ground, and it's not one of the teams you think we should definitely beat, I don't think you'll make as many, but I think we're going to see possibly 4 to 5 changes tomorrow. Things like this as well. I'd rather see Mikey more than Werner. I'd rather see them given a chance, and the likes of Lancashire maybe as well. If we see a few of these players that are not cutting it, let's breed the youth, let's bring them in, but not wholesale changes at all, not just gentle rotations for players that need a rest ahead of key games. That's what do I know, but that's how
I think that's how a lot of fans will definitely feel, because this is the winnable competition in terms of, like you said, the teams that are there. And what I would just say is, again, please don't underestimate the likes of Roma or Porto. I mean, I know Roma have sacked their manager, but Porto are a side that, regardless of who's ever been there, they've always got to the latter stages of European competitions. Some of these players are ever so technical gifted that, there's a reason why these teams do get into Europe. So I think sometimes in the past, we've maybe underestimated, bring it up again, Lask. We've underestimated Ash had about 5. Ash, what was the other teams you said? You had them on the go earlier. What was about the 4 or 5 teams you listed off?
Batiste was one of them. What was the other team?
Was it Arnhem?
FC Mora. Mora.
Who's the one that beat us when he was in prison? Who beat us when in prison? Who was the one that beat us?
Dynamo Zagreb.
I mean, we've had it all at this club, haven't we? We've had it all. Managers beating us whilst we're in prison. We've got disqualifications from Conference League. I mean, what a bloody football club this is. Honestly, wouldn't change it for the world. Love Tottenham. Absolutely love them. I have to make a slight admittance here, guys. For the first time in 7 years, and I feel so bad to say this, guys. I'm so sorry. I love you all out there. For the first time in 7 years, I trailed the country. I trailed Europe. I even trailed a link that James sent me for free journalists on the go. I could not find you a Qarabag preview. We have had every preview opposition in the last 7-8 years since being on Last One on Spurs. And I failed you. I failed you miserably. We could not find. Look at the disappointment on Ash's face. He looks so upset at me. How could you do this to us, Ricky? How could you not find us a Qarabag preview? So I have to apologise. Going downhill here. Ash, we're going downhill, mate. Honestly, 7 years. It's gone. What can I say?
You're going to have to do it, Ricky. You do it.
Well, I did. Crackers very kindly said to me, Rick, I'll do a 5-minute clip. I'll put on an accent for you. No one would know the difference. But I didn't want to put Crackers through that. I didn't want to put him through it. But what's interesting? We picked up on, just to do the preview here for them, but no club actually came close to ending the run of Bayer Leverkusen last season. That incredible run. Then Qarabag, who led 2-0 in both legs of their last 16 tie, and were also heading through into the 93rd minute of the second leg. However, a last-gasp double saw the tie switch hands and the Germans progressed, leaving, of course, Qarabag absolutely heartbroken. And that was the first time that Azeri had progressed past the group stages in the Europa League in the last 8 attempts, taking 10 points off Hacken and Mulder to progress. But I think it's important that we state this, that they've had a very, very strong start to September for them. 3 wins from 3. They've returned to the summit of their respective league after an underperforming August. And as a side, look, at the end of the day, they have got some really, really good technical players. One to watch out for, I've been told, is Juninho, very technically gifted player. I know Ash had a couple on the tongue there earlier as well to watch out for. I suppose we'll be watching out for callers as to what's to come with big old, probably Fraser Forster in there. We talk about rotation. I mean, how do we generally feel about rotation? Sonny, come over to you. Do you think there'll be as many as 7-8 changes? Or do you think we will play a bit calmer? But again, we say it, Man United's a huge game. It comes, on the Sunday where, again, there'll be an emphasis on trying to get some momentum down the league. Can we go to United and win? It's not a ground we do very well at. But again, United aren't in great form. I mean, what do you see changes-wise, Sonny, for Qarabag on Thursday?
I mean, and also United are playing on Wednesday, aren't they, against FC Twente? So they've got a day more than us to prepare. So you've got to take that into consideration. I think personally, I'd do like a nice blend of two, of like a couple of starters. But then, if the game gets wrapped up, I'm jinxing it now. Like if we go a couple of goals up in the first half, then bring them off.
Wrapped up in the Qarabag. See what I did there?
Wrapped up in the Qarabag. I like that. That's good. But yeah,
I'm here all week. I'm here all week.
Like I'd keep like Vicario in goal because or even like have Whiteman or Brandon Austin or something instead. I just think they're better with the ball at their feet. Dragerson can come in, Spence, maybe give Reguilon a game. I think we've got to mix it up a little bit because United is a big fixture and, we can give them a good game if we have our starter. I just worry if we're playing like all the starters in this game and then bloody one of them gets injured. You could just imagine it getting two-footed or something. But yeah, I could imagine like a nice blend of like a couple of the youngsters, but we need probably some proven players in there to just keep it all ticking over. Because the problem is, if you chuck all the youngsters in one team, they're not really going to learn, are they? They need to learn from some of the first teamers.
I totally agree on that.
But you never know. He might put Solanke in there to just like maybe get a few goals, or a Brennan Johnson for morale. I can't imagine Maddison starting or I can't imagine both of them, him and Kulusevski starting, because he wouldn't admit this, Ange, but he will have one eye on Sunday.
Yeah. No, listen, I agree on that point. I mean, look, I think the news we said earlier in the show, which I think I still am frustrated by, the fact that Jed Spence is not in, of course, the European squad. I mean, I just can't get it. I'll be honest with you guys. I mean, I just think Spence is a player that, as we saw in the Carabao Cup, made an impact when he came off the bench. I just think Europe would have been a perfect period for him to really get some game time and momentum in there. And, I am surprised. Sonny, are you surprised that with a player like Spence that we decided to opt for bringing in Forster as opposed to Austin and Whiteman? Or does that really tell us how far down the pecking order Ange generally feels those two keepers are in comparison to Vicario and to Forster?
I mean, I saw just someone say there in the comments what we were talking about. I literally forgot that they're not in the squad, so that sort of sums up how nuts of a decision. Maybe Reguilon less, but Spence has shown he is a good squad player to at least have around. He can play both sides of the fullback. It's just putting a lot of pressure on Udogie or Pedro Porro to play all these games this season, especially as we could go out of the other cups at any stage, in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, whereas we've got to play all these games in the Europa League, so we might as well put our eggs in that basket. So why didn't we go for a squad where it's more versatile and we're able to, rotate a bit more? But I don't understand the emphasis on the goalkeepers, really. I feel like that's a bit, I don't know. I don't know if you have to have a certain homegrown quote, but then Jed Spence ticks up. But I don't know. It's just a bit of a strange situation.
Yeah, the key around that is they had to make the decision as to whether they were going to bring Spence. If they're going to bring Spence, then they would have had to opt to remove Fraser Forster and therefore would have had to have one of Austin or Whiteman. On that basis, it felt Spurs weren't confident in the two young goalkeepers, no disrespect to them maybe not being ready, and therefore
they opted confident in Forster though. After the other night, I wouldn't be confident putting him there. So I just think.
I know there's reservations about Vicario as well. I mean, I don't know what to say. I feel like I've gone back. I feel like I've gone back to Spurs in the 90s when I've got that decision between Ian Walker and Espen Bartson. I mean, I remember those days thinking, who am I going to less likely concede less? I mean, James, not the age you, bud. You must remember those days, right? Ian Walker, Espen Bartson.
Yeah. Bobby Mims. Remember all that?
Jesus Christ. no wonder we're all scalded, right? What we've been going through. We're all scarred.
I've not seen what I was worried about was going to penalties at Coventry with that log just stood there like this. No offence to him, but I want to see. I know they're not in the squad, but I'd rather see Whiteman or Austin. Hasn't Austin just signed a new 5-year deal as well? Seems a bit crazy. But I don't know if this is correct, but I think that. Doesn't it change after the knockouts? They can change.
Yeah, we're lucky. We can. I think that rule does change, which allows Spurs to adjust that, which again is really pretty crucial.
So bring Spence in for the knockouts then?
Yes. Yeah. They can switch that. They can. I think one of the key indicators, I think we will just definitely see 100% in terms of playing time will be Rodrigo Bentancur. Obviously, for those that are unaware or have been under a rock, we know there's a definitive ban hanging over Bentancur's head at the moment, which we are expected to get some clarity on later this week. That ban can range from anywhere between 6 to 12 games. So, look, if that's the case, he's going to be the Thursday night man, you've got to say, in terms of Europa League, where Bentancur will need to have those regular run of games. And I've got to say, I think for the first time on that game against Brentford, that I think was Bentancur really back to his best, if I'm going to be honest with you. So really important for him that he does have regular game time, because on that basis alone, you can see what that guy's capable of doing. And it's just a case of momentum of games. I think the game, obviously, he played against Brentford was his third in the last 6 to 8 days. So it just shows you, with a regular run of games, that guy is literally getting back to the player that we know he can be and will be. So, look, again, we'll have to see what happens with that ban. And it's out of our hands. Again, it's one of those things where the player's got to really take the punishment. As Ange Postecoglou said, it's one of those things where can't get away from it. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say we'll see what Spurs do in terms of that lineup. I think I mentioned it earlier that there has been confirmation that Mikey Moore and Will Lancashire are not involved in the under-21s duty, which does seem to indicate both will be in and around that squad for this upcoming game on Thursday. We know Ange Postecoglou is holding a media press conference, of course, on the latter of the week, where he'll update the plans of the squad and what that's going to look like. But look, we are at the start of Spurs' European journey. We should be excited. There's no reason not to be excited. Now, for those that don't remember, these sides did play each other in the Europa League stage back in 2015. Tottenham winning both games by an aggregate score of 4-1. Although, again, there's not much we can take from that. That was under Mauricio Pochettino's tenure at the club. The only constant is the Qarabag manager, who was in charge for both the games against Tottenham last time these sides met. So that's the one constant there. We're going to go to predictions. Who wants to kick us off? Spurs' Europa journey. Let's start with James. James, I'll never remember, mate. If this all goes wrong, which it won't do, back in Europe, you're going to be there. Where can they find you and what we're going for?
I am going for 3-0 Tottenham. 3-0 Tottenham. I think they won't be a crazy amount.
Hold
on. Yeah, I think that's.
James Black. Hold on, James Black. A clean sheet with Fraser Forster in goal.
It won't be Forster. When I looked at that Coventry line, for example, you change. What I don't want to see is Forster or Ben Davis at the back. I don't want to see either of those two, to be honest with you. If neither of them two are there, then I think that side, even though Ben Davis did have that off the line clearance,
unbelievable off the line.
His header, I think, the first shot on goal. Yeah, they're the two that kind of scared me. So I don't want to see them two. Yeah, so if it's them two not in, 3-0 Tottenham, and yeah, I'll be at the stadium. I'll be at the White Hart Bar, level 5, block 525.
Go and check him out. Go and check out that wonderful James Black. Like I say, he is back in that stadium. It's going to be built up for you, James, isn't it now? With the European nights, it's more than just once every other week. It's well, it might be once every other week, but of course you've got European fit in between as well.
Yeah, it's been going great. I couldn't believe that on Saturday, Sandro turned up. He's been texting me quite a bit, and he's seen a few of the performances, and he's behind it, and he come and join me on stage, which kind of blew my mind, to be honest with you. So he's going to be coming in from time to time to play a bit of guitar whilst I'm playing.
Love that.
But yeah,
I think between you and Crackers, you'll get him out of retirement the way you guys are getting him on at the moment.
He's awesome, isn't he? He's absolutely incredible.
He is. A reminder, of course, James on tour. Check him out on those tour dates for our watching audience. For those that are on audio and you would like James to come to a supporters club near you, his email, his details will be in the audio description. James, always a pleasure. We can't thank you enough. I know a lot of people always look forward to seeing you at the stadium. They'll be looking forward to see you on Thursday. Let's go to Ash. Ash, thank you so much, mate. Always a pleasure. Ash is staying on after this, so you can reroute through to Ash at Spurs Kings TV, or in the old days, you'd be pressing the red button on your CFAX remote, and that will take you straight through to Ash. But YouTube will get to that eventually. You will get to that point where you'll press the red button on your remote control, and you will just seamlessly go over to Spurs Kings TV. That's the world we're going to. Ash, prediction, result, how confident are we for Thursday?
Yeah, I'm going for a Spurs win, 3-1. I think we potentially might concede. I don't know what makes me think that. I don't know.
What makes you think that?
I don't know.
What are you worried about?
I know, right? I think it might be more goals depending on if Werner starts or if Mikey Moore starts. We'll see. I don't know. But that's my prediction, 3-1.
I love it. Ash, thank you so much. Spurs Kings TV, those boys doing their thing. Like I said, they've been great. Ash and Marlon between them. Absolutely love them on the show. Go and check them out. They are superb. Sonny, it's been a Sonny night debut. Composed, consistent, easy to go. I've just got to work on the fact I've got a Sonny on here that I'm going to have to get used to saying a bit more, which is a really weird one. Mate, thank you so much. Sonny, where can they find you? Where can they hear you? And give us a prediction for Thursday.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Hope my debut went all right. And cheers, James and Ash as well. Always a pleasure to be on podcast with you guys. I'm going to copy James. I think 3-0. I think if we're not keeping clean sheets against Qarabag, then we've got no bloody hope, have we? And we might as well just, stop the campaign before we.
We got Fraser Forster in goal. I mean,
it'll be Vicario. It'll be Vicario. It's not going to.
Will
I
it?
can't.
Would it really?
I think so. Yeah, surely. He needs to up his, distribution game and collecting from corners. Like there's no better than doing that. But yeah, I think 3-0. Like surely we've got to put teams like this to the sword. Like they're like probably the Azerbaijan Everton, aren't they? So if we can't beat them, we've got no hope. But yeah, you can find me Sonny Talk Spurs on YouTube. Type that in your search box, or just Sonny Snelling on Twitter. And I also work for TalkSport. So if you want to go and see what I do with TalkSport, head over to talksport.com as well.
You're not behind that where it goes, so we are, mate. That weren't you, was it? Jamie O'Hara's job? That weren't you putting in there, was it that jingle?
Oh, well, the audio. No, that's not me. I'm not involved with
or the clown music. I'd just say that.
No, I do love it, but that's not me. I'm not the creative mind behind that.
Cundy's got us killed over, isn't he? Cundy's got us absolutely killed on that bloody show.
Exactly.
Love him, but my God, he's killed us over on that bloody TalkSport every time we lose a game. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. A final reminder, if I may. Look, housekeeping in place again to remind you, we are finalists again in the upcoming Football Content Awards for 2024. It is down to all you amazing people that have made that happen. We love you. We thank you. And listen, we are blessed that I say that you love this show as much as we love producing it. If you want to vote for us, for those that are watching the show on the rerun or back, you can hit that QR code and vote for us in the best podcast. Or for those on audio, we're going to put all those details there about how you can vote for us. I want to say again, thank you so much for your incredible support for the show. When I go back and think 7-8 years, over 50 million downloads of Last Word on Spurs, how many times you guys have pressed play on that button in terms of audio and YouTube, you guys blow our mind with your love, your support. And again, when we go to that stadium, I know Macca feels it, Crackers feels it. I think Crackers last time he was at the stadium, he got harassed from the highway. That was before he met Sandro, before it. I mean, the thing with Crackers, he'll tell you, he's spotted a mile off, because again, the white hair, poor Crackers, he gets off the stage, he gets off at White Hart Lane, the poor bloke, he loves it. Go and make sure you say hello to all the guys. Go and say hello to these guys in the stadium as well. But again, from Sonny, from Ash, from James, from myself, we've been the Last Word on Spurs. Please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you Spurs.